Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Dr. Janet Lopez, Senior Director of Policy, Partnerships, and Learning here at the Denver Foundation. Today, we're so excited to really launch Belonging Colorado, to learn more about what the initiative is, and to really talk specifically about our first place-based grant-making opportunity. We're going to talk specifically about bridging and belonging and actually go through the steps of how to apply. Your presenters today will be Sachi Ishida, Director of Operational Excellence here at the Denver Foundation, and Juliana Tafour, who is the Greater Good Sciences Center's Bridging Differences Program Director. We really encourage you all. We've had tremendous response, which has been amazing, but please put your questions in the chat. We will try to get to as many of them as possible. We've tried to hold 30 minutes at the end for questions. And we wanted to share that we will also be available for email follow-up after the webinar to help answer questions. So I want to go ahead and jump right in. Gabby, can you pull up the slide for me? So we want to start very quickly with the goal of Belonging Colorado. And I'm going to actually read this. I won't try to read the PowerPoint, but we'll read this. But Belonging Colorado will support work across the state that brings Coloradans together in new ways, builds resilience, and expands our collective understanding of who belongs. Next slide, please. We are today really going to cover, Juliana is going to be talking to us quite a bit and giving us really a really rich background about bridging and belonging work and the details of the place-based grant-making opportunity and what we're really hoping to be able to surface with these first grants that will go out the door. And then Sachi is going to really talk to us about how to apply, and then we'll take questions from the audience. Next slide, please. We want to share with you all, we're really excited, but this is also just the first thing that's happening for Belonging Colorado. This is really a long-term effort to catalyze belonging from across the state and lift up the work that's happening across communities. We really hope, again, we're going to make a set of grants and we're really excited about it, but this is the first of what we hope is a lot of opportunities to partner with us and to work with us around the work of belonging. Our goal with this effort is really to build both the will around belonging and connection across lines of difference, and to really build people's skills across the state around belonging work. We want to emphasize, and Juliana will go much deeper into this, but this work is really around bridging and trying to connect people who are coming from different backgrounds together. We believe that that is sort of the core and foundational work of belonging in the state of Colorado. And it goes without saying that, but I did want to share that, a really big reason for launching this fund is we do believe that Colorado is a beacon for those seeking opportunity and connection, but we also know that to solve our state's hardest challenges, we have to work across lines of difference. We know that we are not immune from the fraying of our nation's social fabric. And we really want this to be a movement and initiative to try to push back and create connections across difference. So with that, I am going to turn it over again to Juliana Tafour, who will talk to us about belonging and bridging work and the grant-making opportunity.
Thank you, Janet. It's so nice to be here, and forgive my voice. I've lost it in the move to Colorado this past weekend, but I'm drinking some tea along the way, so I hope you all don't mind. So if we go to the first slide, I'll talk about the Greater Good Science Center and the work that we do there. So we study the psychology, sociology, and neuroscience of well-being, and our work primarily involves translating the science of a meaningful life into practical applications. Truly kind of effectively bridging research and practice. And we achieve this through several key channels, including our popular Greater Good magazine, our popular podcast, The Science of Happiness, as well as videos. We also launch events and online courses and trainings and professional development programs. And through all of those channels, we teach the skills that nurture a thriving, resilient, and compassionate society. So moving on to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the Bridging Differences program. So through our work in Bridging Differences, we disseminate research-based strategies to foster dialogue, relationships, and understanding across group lines. And this can be lines of race, religion, political ideology, and more. So we are focused on the science of social connection and bridging capital, particularly on understanding the psychology of prejudice and division and how to expand people's sense of care and shared humanity. And we do that through, again, articles, videos, podcast episodes, and also through our popular Bridging Differences playbook, which at this point has been downloaded more than 300,000 times, as well as a matching Bridging Differences online course on edX. We also disseminate some of our science-based skills for bridging differences through speaking engagements and workshops and learning fellowships. For example, right now, we've been for the past 2 years running a learning cohort, and 200 universities across the country have participated in that as part of our Bridging Differences in Higher Education Learning Fellowship. So we've been equipping these universities with research-based skills and strategies to bridge differences on their campuses. So for a definition of bridging differences, so we get a little bit more concrete about what is it that we're talking about, let's move on to the next slide. So bridging is about recognizing humanity in others, acknowledging that everyone has their own needs, values, goals, and worldviews, just as we do. And this awareness enables us to foster understanding across differences and, whenever possible, identified shared identities or values. And as a result, we work towards common goals and pave the way for more positive, respectful, and harmonious interactions. So I know that's a mouthful, but I wanted to be able to provide a framework for you, and hopefully you can screen grab that. And the connection between bridging and belonging. So bridging encourages us to make people feel seen and like they belong. And it also strengthens our own sense of belonging to an even wider community along the way, not just a narrow in-group or our narrow in-group. More on bridging differences on the next slide. So clarifying what bridging differences kind of is and is not. So I already mentioned that it's centered on the recognition that another person or group has their own needs and tastes, or rather values and goals and worldview, just as you do. Bridging differences also is not about persuasion. It's about understanding. It does not require compromising your beliefs or values, or even flattening your identity. On the contrary, it uplifts your identity. So this work involves mindsets and attitudes, not just actions. So that means that the work is also internal, or what we like to call in our Bridging Differences playbook, intrapersonal. It requires modesty, openness, and intellectual humility, recognizing that everyone has something valuable to share and that we can learn from it. It sometimes involves small shifts over time, what we call short bridges. And sometimes I'm working on it, might just be enough. Also, it's important to acknowledge that it's not without risk. It often involves taking risks and exposing vulnerability. So it's not the right thing for every person in every situation. The work of bridging differences should not be done by demand. So the question then is, when do we bridge? Let's move on to the next slide for that. So we can bridge our differences as long as there is openness, acceptance, and respect. And we like to say we don't really bridge in their absence. So in other words, we don't bridge differences if someone is denying your existence or dehumanizing you in any way, or if respect isn't present. But that said, when those conditions are met, science tells us that bridging differences is good for our health. Um, we can see that because prejudices and fears about the other elevate stress. It's good for kids. Students actually feel safer, less bullied, and less lonely in more ethnically integrated schools. It's good for families. After 2016, Thanksgiving dinners were actually 1 hour shorter in areas where members had differing political views. And it's good for workplaces. So diverse team members perform better, but when they have the right conditions and the right skills. So as we continue, let's go ahead and look at the next slide. So the good news is neuroscience shows us that we can expand who we see as part of us. And we can also teach people skills and design environments so that they are able to see people's humanity and treat people just as they would like to be treated themselves. So here are some of the science-based skills from our Bridging Differences playbook for bringing people together across differences. And at the top row are intrapersonal skills, those that you can try on your own without a partner. So by cultivating the mindsets and experiences that orient you towards bridging, you can actually deepen your capacity for more positive interactions. So the skills here range from an invitation to practice mindfulness to intentionally expanding the people or groups you interact with, or the information that you consume and where you consume it from. The middle row are interpersonal skills, those you can deploy during interactions with other people. So, for example, some of these skills can help you step back in the heat of a moment, like self-distancing, which involves you viewing your thoughts, beliefs, or emotions from a third-person perspective. Others might prevent a conflict from escalating, like perspective taking, which involves imagining for a moment how it must see or feel to view the world through the eyes of a person that you might be in disagreement with. And other skills might help you form stronger connections with people you might see as different from you, like compassionate listening, for example, which in turn makes our conversation partners less defensive, more open-minded, and less focused on their self-interests. So the bottom row are inner group skills. And these are the skills you can use when bringing other people or groups together. And these are especially relevant to leaders or facilitators trying to guide people toward better interaction and deeper understanding of one another. So people like you all. And it involves creating the conditions for intergroup contact. So as you think of your LOI process, I'm going to invite you to think about two different groups that normally do not come into contact with each other. They might have different interests, which might be, differences at the religious level or political beliefs or life experiences. Or it might be even two groups who are in conflict with each other. So without going too much in the weeds, I do want to talk a little bit about one of social psychology's most influential theories, which you all might know, about incorporating others into the in-group, right? This is called the contact hypothesis, and it was formulated by Harvard social psychologist Gordon Allport in the 1940s. And the theory itself is straightforward. It basically says increasing exposure to our out-group members will improve attitudes towards that group and decrease prejudice and stereotyping. So Allport recognized that contact between groups can also devolve into conflict and further reinforce negative attitudes. So he argued that contact would bring positive results when 4 specific conditions were in place for the groups involved. So I'll talk about those 4 conditions. So first off, he said the interaction should have the support of legitimate authorities. This could be a local political leader or perhaps even a neutral mediator. Second, identifying a common goal that the 2 parties share was very important. Third, creating a sense of interdependence. So the sense of the parties feeling like they have a shared stake in meeting a specific goal, which gives them an incentive to cooperate. And lastly, creating a sense of equal status. So if, for instance, one group has more leverage or power over the other, either during the interaction or in their everyday lives, the interaction is unlikely to bridge their differences. So I just want to leave you with something that my colleagues, Jason Marsh and Rudy Mendoza-Denton, once said in an article, and it really resonates with me. So they said, promoting contact between members of different groups has the potential to move us from numerical diversity, in which people merely coexist, to relational diversity, in which people from different groups relate to one another as human beings. So let's move on to the next slide. All right, so this you have seen in the LOI. So what Belonging Colorado is. So Belonging Colorado is focused on building belonging by bringing Coloradans together across difference, fostering bridging social capital, which means building connections with those who are different and not bonding social capital, which would be building connections with those who are like you or think like you. So Belonging Colorado is about investing in sustained bridging work, emphasis on sustained. It's designed to support work that gets beyond who we might think as the usual suspects. Let's go ahead and look at what Belonging Colorado is not on the next slide. So Belonging Colorado is not about supporting one-off dialogues or convenings, is not about supporting structural change upstream from belonging, like shifting economic conditions. This is really important work, but this is not this work. Belonging Colorado is not exclusively, emphasis on exclusively, about new arrivals to Colorado or immigrant communities. And it is not about healing a specific divide, like racial healing, the red-blue divide. This is work across all divides. It is also not about supporting political campaigns or work. So continuing on, for the stage one of phase one of Belonging Colorado, we are focusing on place-based grant making, which is seeking to invest to support community level work that brings Coloradans across the state together across lines of difference. So in the next slide, you can find all of this information right on the LOI. So I won't stay here for long. I just want to emphasize that the cohort of Belonging Colorado partners will represent diverse organizations seeking to design and implement new or expand existing innovative programs that bring together people across lines of difference to address shared challenges, connect on shared interests, and or deepen community relationships and heal divides. So moving on to the next slide, we're going to talk about launching place-based grant making. And same here, I'll kind of go over some things that I'd like to highlight because all of this information is available. I just want to say that this cohort will represent diverse organizations seeking to design and implement new or expand existing innovative programs that bring people together across lines of difference to address, similar to what I just shared challenges, connect on shared interests, and or deepen community relationships and heal divides. So in both of these, this is what I think is the most important. But let me also say that it will take all kinds of organizations and programs to create greater connectedness and belonging across our state. So with that in mind, Belonging Colorado is seeking prospective partners working in different geographies, deploying different approaches, and bridging different divides. So let's move on to the next slide to talk a little bit about the Belonging Partners 8-week training. So in addition to the information on this slide, which is also available on the LOI, I want to share that for the 8-week training, our team at the Greater Good Science Center will teach the science of bridging differences, focusing on several of the skills from our Bridging Differences playbook, some of which I just outlined a few minutes ago. And then upon successful completion, belonging partners, or the grantees, will refine program ideas designed to bridge divides within their context and community, incorporating some of what they learned during the 8-week training, and will then be invited to apply for a 2-year grant to implement their program. Now, during implementation, funded projects will receive ongoing technical assistance by our team at the Greater Good Science Center to maximize program effectiveness. And I also just want to share that the 8-week training will be led by me, as well as the GGSC Senior Fellow, Dr. Allison Briscoe-Smith, who's also the co-instructor of the Center's Bridging Differences online course. So Allison and I have presented widely on the science and practice of bridging differences. And we've also served as co-facilitators in the Bridging Differences in Higher Education Learning Fellowship that I told you about at the beginning. And we're both very, very excited about this work and honored to get to work with some of you. Dr. Linda Trop, who's a professor of psychology at the University of Massachusetts Amherst and a leading expert in intergroup relations, will also serve as senior consultant to our team. And then additionally, we will draw on the knowledge and insights of other researchers to further enrich the scientific depth available to the belonging partners. So let's go ahead and look at the eligibility criteria on the next slide. So for starters, your work must connect with the mission and purpose of the fund. Your organization must be a 501c3 nonprofit organization, a governmental entity, or have 501c3 fiscal sponsor. Really essential is that your organizations must do work in Colorado. And you must have strong, trusted relationships with others working in your community and a track record of supporting community-driven work. And also, you must commit to modeling the work by working collaboratively with individuals and organizations that are different from you. Let's go ahead and look at the selection criteria on the next slide. So, commitment to building connections across difference, for starters. Proposed programs alignment, feasibility, creativity, and potential for impact. Experience engaging with groups and individuals, again, with different views, backgrounds, and lived experiences. Willingness to receive feedback and to iterate on the idea. And really important is your commitment to participating in the community of practice, but participating fully, including consistent attendance and active engagement during trainings, as well as a clear intention to submit a proposal to implement your program throughout 2025 and 2026. So in the next slide, you'll see what work we are aiming to support. And I know you have all of this from the LOI, so I won't take long. I think most of this has been said, but I'll highlight efforts to engage those who may be disconnected from others or sitting on the sidelines. And an emphasis also on creativity, right? Ideas for programming that leverage the unique context and interest and needs of a local community to build connections across lines of difference. And just as a final point, and I'm sure this will come up in the Q&A at the very end, we don't see this as charity work, and just wanted to make sure we mention that too. So, if you run a local food bank and, that's amazing work and you are bringing people together, but we're just trying to make a distinction that, what we are seeking is this creativity of, groups coming together across differences for mutual exchange and understanding. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sachi Ishida, um, the Director of Operational Excellence at the Denver Foundation. Over to you, Sachi.
Thanks so much, Juliana, and thanks everybody for being here today. I'm really excited to tell you all about how to apply, but really quick before I do that, just a reminder to throw all of your questions into the Q&A chat, and right when I'm done, we will move to our Q&A portion. And also, we will be sending out a recording of this webinar and the slides, so don't feel like you have to capture everything right. All right, so I'm going to start with a timeline of all of the things that we have been talking about. The first point on our timeline was June 11th. That's when we formally kicked off Belonging Colorado, and it is also when the LOI opened. So you've had from June 11th till July 31st at 11:59 p.m. is when the LOI will close. In early September, we expect to make decisions on the LOIs that were submitted. So you will hear if you were approved or declined by early September is what we're shooting for. And then from September to January 2025 is the period where you will be working with Juliana and GGSC to do the cohort planning. Specifically, September 9th through November 6th is when the community of practice training will happen. So you'll need to be available for those dates. And then by mid-November, the cohort implementation grant application deadline will hit. So that's when all the applications will need to be due. And then by mid-December, we should have decisions on the cohort implementation application. So you'll figure out if you were approved or declined. Again, we hope to approve all or 15 of those applicants after you went through the planning grant period, but you will hear a final decision by mid-December, which means that the grant duration for the cohort implementation grants will be from January 2025 to January 2027. So those are all the important dates, but if you like to hear this more in narrative rather than kind of in a table, this is similar information, but just displayed slightly different. So again, LOIs are due July 31st at 11:59 p.m. through our portal, which I'm about to show you. We are holding the webinar right now, so congratulations, you made it to the webinar. We will select up to 15 organizations that are doing work across Colorado with all the criteria that Juliana just talked about. The selected participants will receive the initial $15,000 planning grants to join the inaugural Belonging Colorado cohort. And those 15 organizations will do the 8-week online training. At the conclusion of the cohort, the participants will refine their programs and ideas, and they will submit their application for the 2-year implementation grants, which will range anywhere from $50,000 to $250,000. During the grant terms, the grantees will receive technical assistance from GGSE to maximize their program effectiveness. So how do you get to all these places and how do you find out more information? These are the key resources you'll need. And again, we'll send out the PowerPoint so you have everything. The Belonging Colorado landing page that's up right now is all about Belonging Colorado in general. The Belonging Colorado funding opportunities page is specific to this LOI opportunity and everything you need to know about submitting, what qualifies, what doesn't qualify, any questions that you have. TDF Grant Manager is the Denver Foundation's grant portal. So that is the portal you will log into to submit your LOI. And if you make it through to the cohort stage, then also your application. And then if you have any questions along the way, belongingco@denverfoundation.org is your email address to email, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, so you're ready to submit your LOI. What you're going to do first and foremost is go to our TDF Grant Manager, which is again our grants portal. So you have that link in this PowerPoint, and the screenshot on the left is what you will see. If your organization already has an account with us through TDF Grant Manager, you'll just sign into your normal account. If you need to create a new account, you'll just click that button that says Create New Account. and it'll ask you to fill out 5 categories. So your organization's information, your personal user information, a quick question about your executive officer, and then you'll just set your password. Pretty standard registration. Once you log in to TDF Grant Manager and you click that apply page in the top left, you will see this screenshot. So this will display all of the open opportunities at the Denver Foundation. You're more than welcome to apply to anything that you think your organization fits within. But for this specific LOI opportunity, you're going to look for the Belonging Colorado Cohort Implementation Grants Cycle 1 2024. You'll see that due date is again July 31st, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. And when you're ready to start applying, you'll just go ahead and click that apply button. If you want to translate what's on the page at all, there is a Google Translate integration. So you can always click that button in the top left. And one of the great things about our portal is that you can save as you go. So feel free to start your application, but no need to feel like you have to do it all in one sitting. You can start your application, pause for a little bit, come back to it, and it'll still be there. Okay, so what can you expect to see on the actual LOI? It's pretty simple. It breaks down into 3 sections. The first one is general. The second one is fiscal sponsorship, if you are using a fiscal sponsor. And the last one are the specific Belonging Colorado questions. So within the general section, there are just 3 simple questions. If your organization uses a DBA, we'd like to know what that is. An attachment of your annual budget, and then are you using a fiscal sponsor, yes or no? That will take us to the second section. If you are using a fiscal sponsor, we'll just need some basic information about your fiscal sponsor. The important one is that last bullet point where we will ask for a copy of the final executed fiscal sponsorship agreement that's signed by both parties. That is the documentation that we will be working off of. And then the last section is really the meat of it. So it's 6 free write questions with a character limit of 2,500 characters. So we're not looking for really long novels for each question. We really want you to hone in on the specifics of what we're looking for. Again, knowing that this is just an LOI and you'll have a separate application due afterwards if you make it through. So the 6 questions are about community needs, uniting people, recruitment, other experiences, the training program, and then community changes. So all pretty basic information, but we're really just interested in learning more about your organization and how you fit into the criteria of Belonging Colorado. These are the exact questions on the LOI. So this is what you can expect to fill out. But again, if you're interested in starting your LOI and looking at the questions, you can always log into the portal and see them there as well. Just to hone in one more time on qualified applicants. So Juliana mentioned this a little bit, but just to reiterate, your organization must fit within one of the following ways. So the first one is that you're a qualified public charity under Section 501c3. That would be your traditional nonprofit. We will need a copy of your IRS letter of determination that we will pull off the IRS website. So make sure you have all of your information up to date. The second option is your organization can be a unit of government, a religious entity, or a public nonprofit education institution. And then the third option is what we've been discussing earlier as well. If you're using a fiscal sponsor, that fiscal sponsor must be a qualified public charity, 501c3. And again, we'll need that official documentation to do our grant due diligence. Last slide is just to review the staff here at the Denver Foundation. So you heard from us today, but Dr. Janet Lopez, we will be hiring a Belonging Colorado program lead. So we will have another contact here soon. And then again, myself, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And speaking of questions, I am now going to hand it back to Janet to lead us through Q&A.
Thank you so much to Sachi and Juliana. we know that was a lot of information, and we are again emphasizing that we will make this PowerPoint available on our website in the next few days, so that you can go through it more carefully. We now have a good chunk of time to be able to answer a lot of different questions from you all, and we've had a number that have been coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and just start going through the questions that have come in through the live chat. We also had a number of questions that came in prior to the webinar, and we saved a few of those because I think they're great to be able to share and clarify with folks. And I will, as I try to answer these questions, a couple things. I may ask Juliana or Sachi to come onto camera and help clarify. And I would also share that, again, we will share with you all Belonging Colorado's email, which goes to my email. And so we are going to be available to respond to questions and follow up via email up until the grant deadline. So let me just share a couple questions that did come in prior to, and then we will get to, I have a whole list of great questions that you all have put into the chat that I'm going to go through as well. So first of all, we did get a question earlier about, it says, my nonprofit provides more basic services like housing, food, or English language instruction to people who are generally excluded. Can I apply for support for these core basic programs? We wanted to clarify that that work is really, really vital work. But we are really looking for projects that explicitly focus on bridging divides between specific groups in new and interesting ways. And so you could be doing that core work, but if there isn't sort of a bridging across lines of difference with a different group, it wouldn't really be a strong fit for this opportunity. I also wanted to address, I think I'll try to, some of the questions that have gone in. Someone asked a question about sort of the piece around this work is not exclusive to immigrants and that community. What I just wanted to clarify is your project can absolutely include that group, and we are assuming that we will hopefully, we really hope to get a lot of applications that have a connection to immigrant communities, communities of color, but we also wanted to clarify that it's not exclusive. It's not only that opportunity. Similarly, Juliana was talking a little bit about it's not about one particular divide. Again, so it could be that you have a project that is around, populations in your community. It could be about a urban-rural divide. It could be about a sort of, civil sort of, the political divides. It can be about those things, but we just wanted to clarify that it's not exclusive to only one divide. We are really looking across the spectrum of bridging and differences and connections. We also had a number of people ask in the chat. I'm in Larimer County. I'm in this particular county. I'm outside of Denver. I do want to clarify, while we are the Denver Foundation, our special funds do work across the state. And this, we're really excited, is completely a statewide opportunity. So anywhere across the state of Colorado, as long as you meet the parameters for eligibility in terms of the organization itself, we would love to have, and we really want to have statewide projects and opportunities that we fund. One question that was asked that came in earlier was sort of, what does a Colorado-based project mean? What we really want to emphasize is that projects must be led by organizations with a Colorado presence, with substantial work and a track record and a relationship in Colorado, and sort of a depth of relationship. So you might be sitting in a city and be an organization that wants to work with a national partner. National partners could be part of this effort, but we really want local organizations to be the applicant and to be the lead on the project. So hopefully that clarifies. We've had a number of people in the chat ask if could two partnering organizations apply together. Absolutely. we again want to emphasize that if there are organizations that are applying together to be part of the grant application, that at least one of them has to be able to do significant work in Colorado and have strong working relationships. So wanted to sort of clarify that. Okay, I've got a lot of questions, so I'm just going to keep sharing them and answering them. One is, my organization has an ongoing project that is explicitly fostered on belonging. Does this mean I am the perfect fit for this initiative? I think our short answer is it's possible. And we have not ruled out, as you saw, existing projects and programs and thinking about expansion of those programs. But we are really most excited, I think, about testing new ideas in this space and approaches, in this space and learning. And so I think totally open to expansion, totally open to if you're doing a really innovative program already in the space, but we're also really interested to see if you are thinking about a new idea or a new approach or a new spin you want to put to it. One of the questions that was also sort of asked in relationship to this is, I think there was a question that was very specific about organizations and participation in the 8-week training program. First of all, we're happy to have more than one application that comes in from towns, communities, regions. We want there to be, but each organization may only submit one LOI. So if you are really passionate and you have a bunch of ideas, we really want you to put forth what you feel like is your strongest idea for this opportunity. With that being said, a couple of people have also asked how many people and what kind of people should participate in the training. At minimum, we'd like to have at least one person from the organization participate in the training, but we are also really open to and really hoping that as we build sort of the skill and will across Colorado, we would welcome the opportunity for, if it's multiple groups submitting together, that there's representation from each group. If there is a sort of a team of, more than one individual in your organization that wants to participate in the training, Greater Good Science Center is open to that. And I don't know, I might ask Juliana to come off for a second and just talk a little bit about it, if she feels like in terms of the opportunity, thinking about number of people who might participate in the training.
Thank you, Janet. I think we've thought between 2 and 3 representatives per organization. And just keeping in mind that when people, attend and participate, they participate as a unit also. So with, one person sharing so that they're not, taking time from others in the group. And also to provide flexibility, but hopefully there's consistency and commitment to attending all sessions. If it's, 2, have the 2 attend all sessions if possible. And if it's 3, have the 3 attend all sessions, but we'd also be open to one that's, very committed. And I also thought I think I saw a question about the time commitment for the fall trainings. And I thought that would be a good one to reply to as well. So there's a 2-day in-person kickoff that we didn't mention that we're hoping starts off our programming. And then there's 7 90-minute trainings in addition to that. So the 2-day kickoff would be our 8th, if you will. And then that's roughly the time on the trainings themselves. And then in addition to that, there are pre-reads and a few things, videos. We may refer people back to our edX course on bridging differences, et cetera, that we can share with people in advance. And at the moment, it's kind of hard to know exactly what the time commitment would be for that. We're putting all of that together, but more on that to be posted on the website when we have more clarity.
Yeah, that's great. While I've got you on the screen, I have a
Yeah.
few questions that have come in that I think also would be great for you to help answer. Um, One of the questions that was asked, if we could talk more about the similarities and differences between belonging versus integration. And
Hmm.
so I would guess that this person is maybe thinking integration of a new community into their into I'm living in Denver, and so I think we have a really large number of new immigrants that have come from the southern border. And what would it mean to do belonging work with them versus just integrating them into the new community?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it seems like both belonging and integration emphasize kind of the importance to feel included, right, within a group and community or even an organization. Um, but I think we distinguish belonging as kind of the emotional feeling of being accepted and valued within a group. And it is about I would say, personal and also the emotional connection that one feels. Whereas integration is more the process of incorporating individuals or groups into a system, right? It seems a little bit more structural, right? Belonging being a little bit the subjective experience, if you
Mhm,
will. I hope that
mhm. Yeah,
answers. Yeah.
that's great. And I am happy to come back to this, and I'm happy to share some. People have asked to hear about some examples of projects in other. Again, we are mostly trying to provide, I think, examples from other places and states, but I don't know if you have any favorite projects or examples of that Greater Good has worked with that you think would fit into this opportunity if it was in Colorado.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, well, there's great examples of people, for example, using sports as a means, so soccer as a means and soccer leagues, right? To bring people together across differences with the shared goal and the shared value of the game. So those are like that is one that immediately comes to mind. I think we talk about creativity, right, as well. So are there creative ways that we can bring people together through the arts? I think that could be really exciting to consider, and the arts in like the broadest sense of the word. Um, I
That's
mean,
great.
we're thinking, do you work with veterans? Do you work with, you mentioned it, Janet, immigrants or new Americans? How are you explicitly bringing groups that are not coming together across differences? But definitely zeroing in on an area of expertise that your organization has and where you already have built-in trust from the community. And then expanding from there to bring unusual suspects into the equation.
Yep. Thank you. Another example I wanted to share, we had a sort of a convening and a launch of the fund a couple weeks ago, but one of my favorite projects that was funded in another state was an opportunity for a group of older adults in a rural community that were quilters and had been lifelong quilters, and they had welcomed a new group of immigrants into their community and had brought multiple generations in to learn quilting skills and to connect and learn, not only a skill set and sort of a hobby and an opportunity, but to be able to connect with them and learn about their own expertise. Many of them, sewed as well in their communities, in their home communities. And so just created sort of a unique opportunity to bridge across pretty folks from pretty different backgrounds who are now in a new town and really being connected together. So that was one of my favorite examples that we shared from, I think the project happens in Kentucky. So, okay, I'm gonna keep on with, we got a lot more questions here. I'm gonna actually have Sachi turn on her camera for a second and ask you some more technical questions, Sachi. One of the questions was, what if we have an EIN but our 501c3 is pending?
Yeah, I saw a couple of those questions come in. You will want your full 501c3 status by the time we are making these grants. So the first portion would be the $15,000 planning grant, and then obviously the second portion would be the implementation grant. In order for us to process the grant to your organization, you have to have your full 501c3 status registered with the IRS. Otherwise, you can use a fiscal sponsor.
There, another question for you, Sachi, was, can you explain what a fiscal sponsor is?
Sure. So there's lots of information out there about fiscal sponsorship, but essentially an organization or a group that is trying to accomplish a mission that might not have its full 501c3 status can work with another organization. Some organizations like to serve as a fiscal sponsor for lots of organizations. We have a couple here in Denver. Other organizations do it on a case-by-case basis, depending on what they're trying to accomplish. So it's a formal relationship between the fiscal sponsee and the fiscal sponsor, and you are fiscally tied together. So the fiscal sponsor would allow you to apply for grants that can only, where money can only go to a 501c3.
Yeah. One of the clarifying questions I think that we got was, somebody was asking if we could connect organizations to fiscal sponsors, and we are not, I don't think that we can formally connect people, but we're happy to, if somebody wants to follow up an email in a particular community, we might be able to, one, we can share if you're sort of 7-county Metro Denver, we can share what organizations sometimes do serve as fiscal sponsors. And I think we can also use our community foundation networks across the state to see if others play that role in different towns and cities. So we're happy to do that. Okay, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. Thanks, Sachi. So I think somebody asked a question, sort of, could we talk more about the place-based element of this project? I think we just, again, want to say, while we are interested and are okay with if you have a national partner, what we really want to see is a place-based project, an organization with a track record in the community where it is sitting. I don't think it is impossible to have a statewide project with this, but I think it would be, I think it could be challenging to think about meaningful contact for a large statewide project. But if you think you have the ability to do that as an organization, we would consider it, but I think we've been thinking more at a local place-based level. Okay. Let's see. One of the questions we asked was if we had mentorship with or help for grant writing. We unfortunately, given the level of interest and ability for this first opportunity, do not have an opportunity to do that. Another question that people asked was, I'm a little confused about Belonging Colorado not supporting structural change upstream. And I think what we really want to be able to clarify is that this is not an opportunity for sort of advocacy work, is not the focus of what we think that we will focus on for this first opportunity for funding. Groups could consider that they're helping policy change be implemented, but I think that will not be as strong of an application. It's just not in this first round of funding what we're focused on in terms of an advocacy piece to the work. We're looking for sort of bridging and connection, but definitely not focused on any particular, I would say, advocacy or political campaign. happy to, the person that submitted that, again, any of these, happy to follow up with clarifying email back and forth. Would you consider funding pilot programs or only existing programs? I think we would consider both. Oh, this is a good question for those that may be a Denver Foundation grantee. How does this impact other grants that the organization may already have? If you are a Denver Foundation grantee, this is a completely separate opportunity. So if you have a grant from another one of our competitive funds, if you have a grant from our community grants program, this does not affect your eligibility in that program, and you are not eligible, you are not ineligible because you have a grant from the Denver Foundation already. This is a brand new fund and is completely open to any organization that submits an LOI. All right. It says our organization is a newer nonprofit. It sounds like the opportunity is targeted for more established nonprofit organizations. I would not say that that is the case. I think again, we are really excited about new approaches, new ideas, and I think oftentimes, again, new organizations can bring that energy. I think what we are looking for is your relationship that you have in community and sort of the connections and the opportunity and the role that you can play in bridging. Will there be a heavier weight given to existing programs with a good track record versus brand new programs? Again, I think we're interested in existing programs, but you really have to think about an expansion piece, an innovation piece, sort of I think a new element than just, program that is already sort of operating as is. Again, emphasizing we really want to, we haven't set a goal of the geographic sort of diversity of the funding, but this is a statewide opportunity, and we definitely want to get to the end of the process and make sure our goal is to have representation from across the state of Colorado and not 15 Denver-based organizations. Next question. Are grants guaranteed for all members of the cohort who fulfill required criteria / participation? I would share that we do have a goal of the organizations that we invite to be part of the LOI and working in partnership with the Greater Good Science Center and the opportunity to be able to really work through and develop fully your idea. We would love to be able to, I don't want to say we will guarantee, because we would want to obviously see a final grant proposal from you all at the end of that process, but we would love to be able to fund all 15 if they're really great, excited projects we're excited about. Let's see. If organizations want to collaborate on a project, can representatives of each participate? And I think the answer to that, I think, Juliana, is that yes, we would have space if there's 2 organizations that are part of the project to be part of the 8-week training. All right, let's say, okay. Okay, Sachi, this might be a question for you. Is the annual budget for current budget or projected budget?
Current.
Oh, sorry. She said current very quickly. So, okay, let's see. Let me get clarification on this one. I'm gonna say it out loud, and then if I don't get back to you, I will try to get clarification. But it says, will the grants have space for any admin and ops support, or only fund things directly attributable to the project? And my sense is that folks are going to put together an organizational budget that will include some elements of administrative and operational elements of your project budget, and that would be included in your grant award. So, Sachi, I don't know if that I feel like that's the correct answer, but I want to double check against.
Yeah, I imagine the grants will be restricted to this belonging work and all of that all the work that entails your proposal to come together. But if your organization is doing work outside of what fits in this criteria, then the funding would be restricted to just this type of work.
Great. Oh, this is a question and just a clarifying question. So it says, is there an opportunity for these to turn into multi-year grants? So the idea behind these grants is that they will be 2 years. So if you our idea that we are really focused on is you would receive, you know, $150,000 grant to be able to execute on your project in 2025, and you would receive that again in 2026. So we really want an opportunity to spend, for you all as organizations, to spend 2 years executing on your project and your model, and for us to be able to think about what great learnings and sort of work we can sort of understand came from that work. So yes, they are 2-year funds. Is there a maximum or minimum operating budget an organization should have to qualify? No, we have not defined that there is anything there. A question would be, would multi-generational integration be a good fit? So I think the idea there is maybe connecting with sort of folks in different generations doing work together, and, you know, thinking about younger generations and sort of older adults, and thinking about the continuum. I think that would be absolutely a project that could be considered. Let's see. Again, some of these are getting pretty specific, but I think, again, we are open to the idea. It says, would you consider a project that would bridge amongst the same group of folks who have the same race and ethnicity, but they have really different approaches to relationship issues? I'd have to think about that one. So Juliana, I don't know if you have any gut reaction.
Well, it seems like we probably need the specifics of what those
Yes,
relationship differences are.
those are.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're not saying we can't bridge within groups that have, you know, different political ideologies or religious identities, or, right? It's not only like across different ethnic groups. So just want to be clear on that as well.
Yes, yes. Great. Okay. Well, this question is, and it says, could you please elaborate on the grants policy regarding not funding convenings? And I think what we want to clarify is we're open to funding convenings, but what we don't want is sort of a one-off convening where you all bring people together for one day to have a conversation, and then that's the end. So we're not interested in sort of a one day. I think we are really open to the idea of training programs, workshops with a bigger vision across connecting across lines of difference. But what we aren't interested in, again, is just that one-off people come together and then don't reconnect. So thanks for asking that question. In terms of our note about no just sort of convenings. Again, clarifying, it says, would a series of events be fundable? I think that would be something that would be allowable. Okay, it says, how metric heavy will the impact portion be? It's often different, hard to quantify how hearts and minds have changed over time. And I'm really glad that somebody asked this question, because our evaluation that we are going to do on this work is, one, I think, absolutely going to be in partnership with the grantees, and really is in service of learning more so than grantees being evaluated for, was the project a success, based on a very specific sort of quantifiable metric. So to that question, I would really say, I think that a little bit of our evaluation work and really learning work will happen as a result of what organizations get selected, and so the organizations and the projects may shape some of the work that sort of will will shape our evaluation and our needs. But this is really, this effort is, I've described sort of belonging work as a movement, and we are very lucky to have the Greater Good Science Center with us as a partner. We are very lucky to have a number of other national partners across the country that are working with us in partnership and have done this sort of research and evaluation work at a practical level. And so just to say that the idea is not to be heavy-handed with only sort of quantitative evaluation metrics. We do want to be able to see that you are connecting, and we want to be able to understand how many people you're reaching and connecting and across lines of difference. But we also, I think, really understand that there is a pretty significant both qualitative and quantitative side to this work. So, and Juliana, I don't know if from the standpoint of the Greater Good Science Center, if you have any other reflections on sort of evaluation and learning in this space, but I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, thank you, Janet, and thank you for the question. It's definitely really important to us. So as people go through the 8-week training or the in-person plus the 7 sessions, we are hoping to measure them on their feelings of connection to others and their shared identity with others, including across differences, as they are engaging with our materials. And we have a tool that was developed by one of our postdoc fellows, who's also going to be involved with research and measurements and evaluation on this project. And then we're very lucky to count with the consulting and the partnership of Dr. Linda Trop, who is an expert in evaluation as well. So we are, as we embark on this journey together, we are hoping to be able to understand what are the projects and how can we come up with tools, measurement tools that may be applicable so that we are equipping you all with a set of measures that you can go out and implement in the communities that you're serving, so that hopefully we have a baseline of measurement across projects. But all of that is coming together in TBD, but really appreciate just the focus on that from the get-go. It is really important to us too, because we are hoping that what we see from what you all implement in community serves also as a beacon of, this is maybe what is a way moving forward that can be applied across other states.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to a couple, we've got a few more. We're getting, you guys have asked great questions. I would love to, one particular organization, and I just would love to maybe follow up with this organization. Again, the questions are being fed to me, so I don't get a chance to see particularly who submitted these. But they asked a question about, they're really interested in integration and belonging of refugees from several countries into their city, and are trying to figure out how to work with city officials or they're having trouble working with city officials who don't necessarily are not welcoming of this particular group. And so they're interested in ideas about how to approach this the fact that their particular city is not welcoming, but they want to do work of connecting and belonging. So we'd love for that group to follow up. I think my short answer might be, what is the opportunity for partners in your committee beyond just the city officials to be able to partner and thinking about, again, belonging and connecting and thinking about that bridging opportunity for people in the city who are different than them, but are interested in doing the work to both integration, belonging, and connection with them. One question is, how is the $15,000 grant provided with training to be applied? The idea is that that grant is really to pay for your individuals and the staff that are participating their time for the training. So we send you all the grant, and how you all apply that is fine. However you want to use that grant, but the idea is really that it helps. Especially we're thinking about the breadth of organizations where time and time and time for staff is precious. And so we wanted to be able to help supplement that your staff will be in this training by giving you some grant dollars. Again, want to reiterate, we had a question that says, does the program we want to develop need to target all of Colorado, or can it just be for the geographic area we serve? And the answer to that is yes. We would absolutely, there's no intention for it that it is a statewide project. We're really interested that it's focused in the community where you live or the region where you live. Okay. Again, there's sort of there's multiple questions about, is there a definition of community, geographic, or place-based? We don't have an official definition. And again, I think trusted relationships in communities is an important piece of the puzzle for the organizations that will be applying for this, that are applying for this opportunity. So let's see. Oh, I thought I was doing well, and you guys have added like 20 more questions. Let's keep going. Give me 1 second. This is a question that says, is the intent of the LOI to identify organizations that do more work in this area, but don't necessarily have the skills and knowledge to do so? And the training would allow them to sort of be able to have a more clear idea for approaches? Or is it the hope that organizations that already have these skills and knowledge around bridging will apply? And I think that the idea is both. I don't think we will be successful. We completely understand that there are a number of organizations on this call that do incredible belonging work and bridging work, and that is squarely in their wheelhouse. We also really feel like we will not have succeeded in this effort if we have some organizations that are doing what you all really see as bridging and belonging work, but maybe don't even call it that. And we really want to be able to, I think, have a cohort that brings their ideas, but also can gain new skills. So I think it's a both and. Juliana, I don't know if you have any additional feelings about like what the cohort's going to look like.
Yeah, I think just the +1 on people who don't call themselves bridgers, right? Like we know that people working in bridging and belonging will apply, and of course you're welcome to apply. But this is also an invitation for those who have the trust of the community, and hopefully with what we have described as bridging work today, can zoom out a bit and understand whether maybe they have been doing this work without knowing that they've been doing it, or can lean into this work because they can do a great job at it. So yes, the answer is definitely both, but a nudge to those that just need additional skills as well to be able to implement in community.
Yeah. This is a question that I actually, Sachi, you might know the answer to, but we also might have to do some homework on it. About does the Denver Foundation as an entity have a limit on indirect costs in a grant budget?
No, I mean, you'll develop your budget breakdown after you move through. If you move through the LOI process into the cohort stage, well, you'll really start to put a budget to your program. But for at least the LOI, don't worry about indirect costs for the annual budget. And then, yeah, we can circle back afterwards.
That's great. Okay. This question is just a basic sort of being a little confused about the LOI versus the 8-week training. And so I just want to try to clarify again with folks that folks will apply, and we're calling it a letter of intent, but really it's, you'll see in the PowerPoint that Sachi provided is you'll submit online a set of questions, and there are 6 or 7 questions along with information about your organization that we're calling our letter of intent. And you can also think of it as sort of a mini application, but we wanted to make that a smaller, easier, not overwhelming, gigantic application for applicants. So you'll first submit the letter of intent. Then from the submissions, we will select 15 organizations that will be part of the inaugural cohort. Those organizations will get the 8 weeks of training and the $15,000 grant for participating in the training, and then will then submit a full grant or a full proposal for the full funding of their projects for 2 years of funding. So just trying to clarify that a little bit. It says, is there a rural set aside for this opportunity? It says it can be difficult for rural communities to compete with metro areas for funding opportunities. And I would not say that we have an official set aside, but we absolutely intend to be able to fund across the state of Colorado. And it will not exclusively be a Denver-based cohort of organizations. Okay, this is a question, and I'm wondering if Juliana has any feedback on this from Greater Good's work. It says, I want to uplift how to quantify the emotional and feeling of sense of belonging. And then it says, will there be specialized support or resources offered to support grantees who are interested in belonging and sort of the emotional elements of belonging in trying to figure out the metrics that they want to measure? Or is it expected that the applicants will have already defined those metrics? And I don't know if you have any feedback or Sachi has any thoughts in terms of our conversation about what we're asking as we are working on the grant application as we speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are also working on the measurements and evaluation as we speak. So, I mean, I love those questions, and I don't think it is to be expected that organizations already have these things figured out and have the metrics. We definitely need to define those metrics and support you in ways that you can measure your programs.
Okay, that's great. Let's see. It says, could 2 individuals participating in the cohort be informal leaders from constituent communities served by the applying agency? Or is the expectation that all participants belong to the awarded organization itself, who will then share skills? So I read this as, I'm an organization, I have a community member that is not on my staff, but is a leader in my community that I want to be able to, I mean, one, I think that's the project work. I think the question is whether an informal leader would be part of the 8-week training. And my sense is that that opportunity will be for staff members. But absolutely, I would envision a project where leaders from local communities would be part of the project and the model itself. Juliana, any feedback on that or thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just texting asking for the question. Yeah, can you repeat that for me?
It says could 2 individuals participating in the cohort be informal leaders from, let's say, their communities that are served by the organization? So rather than staff, could they be, I'm trying to think, I do a lot of work with organizations that have parent leaders that aren't on staff, but are moving work. And so I think they're asking if they could be part of the 8-week training or if it's just a staff only opportunity.
Yeah, I think there are organizations that have a model like this, and I think it's a great model. I think in the eligibility, specify that, either a fiscal sponsor or a partnership with a nonprofit organization. But I think personally, there is good work to be done by trusted members of community. So I am personally excited, if the eligibility criteria is met, for people like that who are not part of an established organization, but who are working with an established organization, but who have the inroads and the trust of people that we're trying to get to bridge. For them to be able to apply would be wonderful.
Yeah. I absolutely think, and so I'm changing my answer to say that I think that an agency or the organization would attend, but there is a possibility if they have really community leaders that might be appropriate to attend to also attend as well. So we just have a couple more questions and I'm going to wrap us up. These have been amazing. And again, we are available. We will share the Belonging Colorado email for those. But let me try to get to just a couple more before we finish up. There was a question about sort of what does sustainability mean to us? And I think the idea is that when we think about the project or the model, that I know that sustainability is a tricky question, but I think our hope is that we would be able to have the possibility of some sort of staying power of the work in the longer term, after this grant opportunity concludes at the end of 2 years. But I think what form that takes or what impact it's made in community, again, is part of our learning journey. So we really think that could probably vary a bit. Let me answer just a couple more. I talked really fast at the end, so I'm going to try to get these last couple questions. Sachi, this is a really quick question. It says, we're considering a collaborative grant with 2 organizations. How do we approach a submitted budget?
Again, I think even if you're working with another organization, you should sort of have a lead organization, and submitting the annual budget for that lead organization is what we are looking for. Think about it in relation to the eventual implementation grant that you might apply for and how much money you're sort of thinking to do the work, and what would be the receiving organization for those dollars as well.
That's great. All right, we are wrapping up. I know we had a couple more questions that we're not going to get to, but I'm happy to, if you submitted a question and it was not answered, please reach out to the Belonging Colorado email and I will do my best to get you a response. So that was incredible. You all understand, and thanks so much to the Denver Foundation staff who helped pull this webinar off. Our staff said, this was incredible. We had over 100 questions in the Q&A. And thank you so much to all the staff. There are a lot of people behind the scenes that aren't the 3 of us that have helped make this possible today. Extra thanks, of course, to Sachi and to Juliana. And awesome thank you to the interpreters from the Community Language Co-op. Just a couple last minute things to share with you all. The recording of today's session and the slides in English and Spanish will be sent out in a follow-up email and will be also posted on the Denver Foundation's website, so you can reference this information as needed. A final reminder, we're really excited, and you all have hopefully have taken away some details, but have some time to really think through some exciting ideas. The application window closes on July 31st at 11:59 p.m. And again, we will be sending out email communication to connect for further questions about your applications. And we hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.